Playboy, you made that beat.
We are here at it again. It's High School Hoops with the Talking Heads, and we got a special guest. I am E. Tally with.
This is Mike Daniel Jr., representative of Alamo City All-Star Sportsplex, proud supporter of Super Sports Media. Our special guest that we have today is
I'm Cole Martinez. I'm the head boys basketball coach at Madiosn High School.
Coach. Thank you, and thank you. This has been a long time coming, right? Right or wrong?
Absolutely.
And I apologize. I thank you for giving me this time to sit with you and talk and kind of chop it up. I think you're 3 years in, right? This is your third year?
This is year number 2 over at Madiosn.
Oh, 2. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yeah, for some reason, Max Prep has you down as number 3, by the way.
Do they? Yeah,
Yes, they do.
I gotta look on that, get that changed.
Yeah, they got the season, I think it was 22-23, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, they got 22-23. So because I think last year you had a overall winning record, correct?
Last year I believe we were 23-14, something
Yes, sir.
along
Yes,
those
sir.
lines.
Yeah, that's what I had. Yes, sir. That's what I had. So that's a great start to a high school season.
I was very fortunate. I had a bunch of seniors who have played varsity basketball for a little while. We had some talent. We had a lot of guys that can play a little bit. And so I was fortunate to have that as my kind of first group to kind of get my feet wet with being a head coach at the 6A level here in San Antonio. And a lot of love for those guys. Those guys still come back to the gym, which means that something I did was right since they continue to come back. But I was very fortunate to be with that group last year.
And then I know it's early, but you got your first district win. A surpriser at that. I'm not gonna fib to you. That's a big win right there for y'all.
It was a big one for us, man. I was very, very pleased with how we competed, especially in the second half. I was talking to Mike couple weeks ago, or actually last week, about we're just really young, not in terms of years, but in terms of experience at the varsity level. And you guys know how that goes, man. That matters a lot. And so for all these guys, for all but 2, it was their first varsity basketball game, first varsity district basketball game this past Saturday. And so, we had a little adversity, went up and down a little bit, but just to be able to kind of squeak one out. And again, we were fortunate to kind of make plays. Churchill's tough. Eli and Nas are really, really good. Coach Gonzalez does a good job with that group. And so to be able to squeak one out at home, was really big for us.
Well, hey, real quick, I was in the building that night. Shout out to your class of 2028 freshmen that showed up and pretty much took over the fourth quarter and got y'all all the way over that hump. It was great watching him continue to get his confidence and just watch him grow in those moments.
Yeah, we're super, super excited about Brandon Pryor. He's been making big plays for us all year. We don't have the record we have right now without him. Going into the year, we were talking about, does he play a little bit of varsity? I mean, he probably won't play very much, or do we stick him on JV and have him play a whole lot? And then some things happened early on in the season before the season even started. And we're like, no, we're going to go ahead and stick him on varsity. And then turns out to be one of our most important players, a big impact player for us. But, as a freshman, to get that confidence and really get that experience. I mean, he jumped not just from middle school to high school, but middle school, he passed all the freshmen, passed the JV. In his first district basketball game, he was huge in the fourth quarter for us, and he's been doing stuff like that all year. We're really excited about him for the next 4 years in our jerseys.
Well, let's just jump right into the questions. So I have the first question. Mike's going to be even. So, what do you believe are the key factors that help land you at Madison, and then so I have a two-part, and then what are some of your keys to changing the culture there?
Well, I'm born and raised here in San Antonio, and so I always wanted to kind of come back. Obviously, I played college basketball at A&M Corpus. I coached at A&M Corpus for a little bit before taking a high school job down there for a year. It just so happened that year turned into the COVID year, so we didn't come back after spring break after that first year I was in high school. And then Coach Ryan Taplin got the job over at Lee and was like, "Hey, man, come on." And I was like, I don't know. I think I'm pretty close to getting a head coaching spot, even though I was just 1 year in Corpus. Obviously playing and coaching at the university, my name was pretty known over there. He was like, "Well, you have a good shot up here too," so on and so forth. And so he talked me into it, and came up here, and was very fortunate to be a part of a program that went from not winning a lot in recent memory to making the playoffs in our second year there, making the playoffs for the fourth time in 40 years, and having a really special group. And then so experiencing some success there, and then after my third year at Lee, two jobs opened up in our district that we didn't think were going to open up. It was a shock to all of us, and so I threw my name in the hat, got turned down for one, and then got hired for the second one, and felt very fortunate. Mr. Wernley and Coach Peterson took a chance on a guy with zero head coaching experience in the high school level. I've done AAU and all that stuff for a long time, but very fortunate to be able to be in this position, and very thankful to be in this position. And then changing the culture wise, I think that term is used a lot, and I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it's more so establishing our identity and establishing who we are. And so kind of who we are, I'm wearing the strength of the herd shirt right now, very, coincidental. But we talk about the herd all the time. We talk about the team all the time. Nothing that we do can take away from who we are. Nothing you can do can hurt us. We talk about like a pack of dogs all the time. We want to be dogs on the floor. Nothing you can do can be greater than the herd. Nothing you can do can be greater than the pack. And then in addition to that is the character piece. Be where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to be doing when you're supposed to be doing it. And I learned that, back playing for Coach Willis Wilson in Corpus. And I, took that from him because it's been really big. And if you're just where you need to be, doing the things you need to do when you need to be there, and those are things we're trying to instill in our kids, things will work out for you. And so, those two things, putting the team first, and then the character piece, and then lastly is just, we talk about competitive effort, relentless competitive effort all the time. And so those are the three things that we kind of preach more than anything else, and those are the three things that we kind of fall back on every day, and we preach every day. And those are the things that hopefully if you watch us play, and we're not there yet, this is year two, and like I said, a very young group at that. And so hopefully in the next few years you kind of see that really develop, and you kind of see that with the product we put on the floor.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
So, first, again, Coach Martinez, to be here, on this level with you now, I just want to say proud of you, right? Because I'm Corpus home. Corpus is my hometown. You know that is once you graduated down at A&M and you stayed down there, and so when I was coming back home, doing my camps, and then I started hearing the name Cole Martinez. I'm like, who the hell is Cole Martinez? I'm like, I know who Roy Della Pena is. I'm like, I know who Willie Harper is. Like, who is this Cole? And I did my homework. I'm like, okay. And we reached out and we talked. We had great communication. And then you came back home, and now you're at Madison where a bunch of my guys are. And so to be here on this level in this lane with you, man, it's just awesome. So first off, kudos for your journey and where you are now. And I just want to just give shout out and love for just watching you grow through this process and this journey, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Corpus is always a second home. I thought I was really going to stay down there for a minute. I was going to jump right into high school basketball, but then, my college coach was like, "Nah, try this college thing out for a little bit." So, I lived in Corpus for 8 years, second home. I love it. I still talk to, all the boys I played with, and, still keep in touch with some of the coaches down there. That's why we went down there this past year, so I can go back to Corpus and we have a little road trip from it. But, much love for the 361 for sure.
All right, my question. I love your twist on our first question. No culture, establish the herd's identity. With that being said, what are some of your insights with your coaching philosophy?
I always, told myself whenever I became a head coach, I'm going to be a coach that, players want to play for. And I feel like a lot of coaches, they teach plays and they put players in a box and they do this, that, and the other. And with us, we're very, very open, very free. I want my players to play with a whole bunch of confidence, and I want my players to feel like they can, be themselves out there a little bit. And, if they make a mistake, we'll correct it, we'll move on. But I give my players a lot of freedom. And sometimes that does hurt us, especially, with us being as young as we are this year. But the hope is that we continue to learn and grow and develop. We're much better now than we were a couple months ago. And along those lines, my players, I feel like they know they can come to me for whatever. I feel like on the court, there's a lot of communication that happens. There's a lot of times, I ask them, hey man, like, what do you see? Because as a player, I know, I go back coaching wise, I go back a lot on my playing days. And so as a player, I knew, there are certain things that I saw on the floor that, you may not see on the sidelines, and, vice versa. And so we have conversations, and I'm like, hey man, like, Will being my returning varsity guy from last year, Will and Jordan, I look to him a lot. Hey man, what you see? What you think? My young guys, if they make mistakes or if they do something right, either or, I'm like, hey man, what are you seeing right here? What are you seeing right now? And so, that's a big thing about me and my philosophy is I want to be a player's coach. I want to be a coach that, kids enjoy playing for. I'm very demanding. I'm very passionate. I'm very energetic. But I want my guys to know I'm gonna fight for them day in and day out. And I think that allows them to go out there and fight for each other. And I think that's been big for us.
Well, I'm going to tell you after finally getting over to Madison and watching the game, you're doing exactly you're accomplishing your philosophy. And I say this because the past few shows that we've talked about high school players looking uncomfortable, right? Looking like they're not free, right? And there was no hesitation on any of your players, even the guys that came off the bench, right? There was no hesitation. There was encouragement, and they were just playing. And it looked that freedom allowed y'all to beat Churchill because they weren't scared of a moment. They weren't scared of a mistake. They were just playing ball. And you could tell that they knew you had their back and trusted whatever it is that they were doing. And so, you got your young bunch. Keep doing what you're doing, man. That's awesome.
I appreciate that. And I mean, at the end of the day, man, we deal with 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. And so if you put the pressure of the world on their shoulders, they're not going to go perform. And so, we got to make sure that they go out there with some confidence and just let it loose and go play, and go be free.
So that's great because that leads into our next question. How do you approach player development, and what are some of the specific techniques and drills you use to help teach your players to improve your skill set and basketball IQ?
So we do some player development every day. I think it's huge. I grew up being able to be fortunate enough to work with guys like, like Tap over at Lee, like, Walter Kramer, who's the OG of skill development here in San Antonio, Mark Veer, Marco Rivera, Mo Harrison, all these guys, I've been able to kind of see what skill development is able to do. And in my career, I was never able to jump high, run fast, be athletic, any of that type of stuff. So skill was huge. And so nowadays, playing as free and as open as we do, skill is huge. Like if you want to play free and you can't dribble, pass, and shoot, it's hard to play as free as you want to be. And so, every day to start practice, we'll do some passing and catching, or we'll do some ball handling stuff. I think that's been helpful for our guys. We shoot every single day. I think that's the biggest skill in basketball is just being able to put the ball in the basket. And no matter what you run, no matter what you do, if you can't put the ball in the basket with the shots that you get, it's all for naught. And so, we'll do some skill every day. Obviously, over the summer, we do a little bit more because we don't have to game plan and game prep and do all this other type of stuff. But, skill is huge, in the game of basketball today. So we try to make sure that we do a lot of it.
Okay. Well, I remember how when you were coaching your AAU stuff, you had very intelligent players, and I'm seeing how that carried over. Like last year, I knew two of your players that played with us over there at Nike Pro Skills, and again, that's one thing that I've seen you kind of allow them to do. I know it was kind of hard sometimes when one of them was challenging, but again, you allowed those players to play within the game of themselves a little bit, and kind of you know, was a good thing for me, especially, during the AAU scene, because those guys were growing. And then it went from AAU right into high school basketball where it was just fluid for them. I believe. That's your point guard you had last year. I thought he was really, really You know, yeah, sometimes he got a little like that, okay, a little zealous there. He wanted to shoot the ball a little too much, but again, you can't hold that back because again, sometimes you were in need of those big shots. So I'm just glad to be part of it and watching you guys do what you do over there.
Absolutely. And it goes back to the freedom piece. You know, you tell kids you can't do certain things and can't make certain plays, and then they become hesitant. But I don't want my guys to be hesitant. I want my guys to go out there and be aggressive. You make a mistake, it's an aggressive mistake,
Right.
because you can deal with stuff like that. And so, you know, like I said earlier, I was fortunate with the group I had last year. We were pretty talented and we were pretty experienced. And so to be able to, you know, kind of help them kind of move along. And now, you know, he's at the next level. We have a couple guys at the next level doing really cool things. So you know, excited to watch them progress, but you know, excited just to kind of be a little piece of that.
Yep. Go ahead, Mike.
So next question. What role does strength and conditioning play in your program, and how do you incorporate it with your everyday life to help your players reach their full potential?
Yeah, I mean, you know, strength and conditioning is huge. You know, obviously over the summer, you know, we have our workouts and we'll do 2 strength days and one kind of agility day, or one day where we're on the field or just doing something out of the ordinary. You know, a lot of them, you know, in middle school they'll lift weights or do whatever, but we try to get them doing something a little bit different, a little out of their comfort zone, for one of those days of the week. And then in the school year, you know, we every every day after a game we lift. And so, you know, we see him in the period, and then we see him after school. And so, you know, we know if we play on a Tuesday night, you know, Wednesday during the period, we're going to lift, we're going to watch film, we're going to shoot some free throws. And then after school, we're going to come back and make sure that we get after it. And so those lifts can be a combination of a lot of different things. But usually it's, you know, get in, get out, get your work in. We want the weight room energetic, you know, got the music going, got guys kind of really excited about being in there, hopefully sometimes. And then, you know, some days where, you know, I know it's just been a lot on their bodies, or we had a really tough one, instead of, you know, a whole bunch of strength stuff, it'd be some strength stuff, some mobility stuff. Or I know if, you know, especially during tournament season, you know, after practice, we'll go 15 minutes and just do like a yoga type session or something like that to make sure the guys are refreshed and have enough legs on game day to be ready to give us what we need. And then there's other days where, you know, after practice, like, hey, like you three, make sure you go get some ice, make sure you go put your feet in the ice bucket, do what you need to do, that way. And so, you know, I learned that through college, you know, about the grind of a year. And I try to make sure that our guys know that, hey, man, we need to be rested and ready on game day. And so if we run you through the floor and do X, Y, Z, then we're not rested and ready on game day. So the strength and conditioning comes down to, hey, how can we get these guys ready to perform, you know, on 33 nights out of the year, 32 nights out of the year.
Okay.
Nice.
So, Coach, we talked a little bit where we asked you a question in reference to your team culture and gave your answer, and then we talked about your philosophy. But can you share a story where both of those came together during either this season or last season?
You know, I think culture is every day. And so I think it's the everyday growth and everyday kind of maturity that we continue to try to develop every day. I would say, you know, last year, um, you know, the group that I got, you know, we finished last in district, you know, the 2 or 3 straight years before I got there. And so going into big games, you know, I remember a couple of games where we're playing against the number one team in the district, or we're playing for seeding situation. Excuse me. And you know, just being able to buy into the culture piece, you know, be we're supposed to be doing what you're supposed to be doing when you're supposed to be doing it, in terms of rotations, in terms of setting the right screen, in terms of, hey, we got to run this play right now. We have to execute it to go get the bucket right now. Or, you know, the competitive effort part. Every possession has to matter. And, you know, we went into those games and we performed well. And so, you know, this year, like I said, you know, with a young group, taking that young group and being able to understand, you know, still doing your job, still competing every possession, and being able to do that and see some success, you know, I think that alone says the culture piece. And hopefully we're going to continue to grow in that culture piece.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
Coach, during tryouts, when you get, you know, 150 kids in your athletic period, right? How do you identify those kids that are coming from the club teams that are touted, highly talented? You know, when you get these guys, or even the regular guys, like when the school year starts, what is it you're looking for in your athletic periods to know who's going to be successful for that herd identity. What are you looking at beyond just their on court skills?
For sure. So obviously their on-court skills are going to show over a course of a tryout for sure. But with us, kind of two things is what we really, really look for. Number one is how hard are you going to play? With us, like I said, our baseline, that relentless competitive effort part, like how hard are you going to compete every possession? Is it a tryout so I'm not going to dive on a full for a loose ball? Or it's a tryout so I'm not going to go box this guy out and try to rebound the basketball or make two or three or four multiple effort plays on the same possession? How hard are you going to play? Are you the first one down the floor all the time? Are you going to, do all the dirty stuff? That sticks out really, really quickly to us because at the end of the day, we can run all the things we want to run. We can try to do all the different things we want to do. If you don't bring that dog to the gym every day, then I'm sorry. Like you could be the most skilled guy on the court, but if you don't play hard, you're not going to be able to help a whole lot, especially at the varsity level, especially at the 6A level in our district. It's tough. And so that sticks out for one. And I would say the other piece is how good of a teammate are you? Are you going to fit? Are you a guy that's all about you, or are you a guy that's about us? Again, about the herd, right? Are you a guy that's about you, or are you a guy that when your teammates do something well, are you going to celebrate it? If you don't shoot the basketball, are you going to be upset, or are you going to go get back on defense and do the right things defensively? Are you going to make a one more pass? Are you going to pout if you're off the floor? Are you going to you know what I'm saying? All that stuff sticks out, and there's a quote that says body language screams. And, are you a bad body language type of guy? Or, are you a guy that's constantly dapping guys up and talking guys the right way? Because at the end of the day, in the game of basketball, right now we have 13 guys on our varsity roster. Some nights, because a couple, depending on the day or whatever, not all 13 are going to play. It's hard to play more than 9 in a varsity basketball game, to be honest with you. And so are you going to be a guy that's going to be about you and be pouting on the bench? Or are you going to be a guy that's going to show up every day and grind during practice and give back to the herd and give back to the team and do all that type of stuff? And then whenever your number is called, are you going to be ready to go perform? And that comes down to your preparation and your teamship. And again, how hard are you going to play? So going back to your original question, we look at how good of a teammate are you going to be? Do you fit in our program with our values? And how hard are you going to compete every day?
Love it. Love it.
So with that being said, Coach, in your experience, what are some of the biggest challenges and obstacles you had to overcome as a high school coach already? And then how did you navigate through those challenges?
Well, I would say just the identity of our teams the last 2 years has been a huge, huge challenge for me. I'm a first year head coach. My staff is all first year. Last year was all first year to either first year to high school or first year to basketball. And so, we don't have a lot of knowledge and experience to lean on. And so with the group that we had last year, like how can I take a whole bunch of seniors who, if we're being real, have not won a lot in district play before I got there at the varsity level. How can we take that group and make us competitive during district play in a very, very tough district? And how can we get a whole bunch of seniors to buy into a brand new system, brand new identity, brand new philosophy, and make it their own and make them comfortable enough in it to go make all the right plays and do all the right things and still play their butts off every day. And so that was a challenge. And then losing all those guys, losing all that talent. How can we make this year's group who only we had one guy in our off season who's played any type of varsity minutes and he was hurt all preseason with a foot. And then the other guy that has varsity experience was on the football field. So how can we take a whole bunch of guys that have never played a varsity basketball game and have them understand the demands and the attention to detail that it takes to be competitive at the varsity level? And so I think, excuse me, I think those two things in particular has been a huge challenge, in addition to all the stuff that I just don't know as a head coach, all the paperwork stuff, the this, that, and the other. People think that we show up on game day and yell and draw up some plays on game day, but our job is so much more than just basketball. And there's a lot of other things that we have to balance and do on a day-to-day basis with our guys.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, Coach. Can you share an example of a game within this, your first couple of seasons where your team faced adversity? How were you able to lead them through that challenge and then achieve success?
Well, you guys brought up our first district game the other night with Churchill. I think that's a pretty good example in itself. I remember, I think I called a timeout 35 seconds into the game. Because we did not come out and we did not do what we're supposed to do. And, I'm made sure that we figured out how to get on the same page. And, some of our guys owned it. We took a lead going into the second quarter. And there's good adversity, there's bad adversity. And so, we were able to kind of right the ship and do the right thing. And then there's some good adversity hit. Like, okay, now we're feeling good about ourselves. And then second quarter, they come out and they make a run and they start doing their thing. And, they played really well, tip our hat to them. And then, at halftime we're down, I think it was 7 or 8 or something like that. And, we're missing some bunnies and, turning the basketball over and, they were hurting us on the rebounds and, they were doing the things that they needed to do to be successful. And, we came out of the second half and we're down 11 about midway through the third quarter. And then again, we the Spurs had that mantra of pound the rock. We kind of talk about the same thing all the time. We do one possession at a time, one hit at a time, one stop, one rebound, one bucket. And then we're able to kind of right the ship a little bit. And then, you said it, in the fourth quarter, we had some guys really, really step up and make some huge plays. In addition to that, I had, I played 8 guys and I say 4 of them had 4 fouls or more. Our starting backcourt fouled out in that basketball game. And so to have other guys step up in situations where usually the ball's in other people's hands and make the right plays was huge for us. And so you talk about handling adversity, I was really, really proud of our young guys to step up and make big plays when we needed to have them.
Yeah, it's crazy because when we talked last week and we were talking about that Churchill game, we talked about boxing out, right? We talked about taking care of the basketball and winning the 50-50 ball battle. And it was a couple of minutes left in the third quarter, which then steamrolled y'all into the fourth when y'all turned that switch on and started winning all those categories. And then, of course, the results in the pudding, right? And so it was definitely it was a beautiful sight to see for sure.
100%. It's the identity, and it's like I said, the with young groups, we don't understand how important it is to lock in on all the details that go into a basketball game. I remember one game earlier this year, we go into a game, we talk about their guys, we talk about what they do, and then we talk about, certain keys that we have. We went into the locker room after halftime, and I just wrote down the same keys on the board and said, how we do? Not very good. How we do? Not very good. How we do? And then they forgot the third one. And and then one of them finally remembered it. And I was like, guys, like, this is what we need to make sure that we remember day in and day out, or especially right now in front of a basketball game. And we can't forget when we step on the floor what we have to do, what the recipe is to go win a basketball game. And so again, to their credit, to our guys' credit, like, we're learning those things, and young teams grow. Young teams have to go through that process, that adversity process, to figure it out. And so we're growing, and to my guys' credit, they came out and they competed and they started riding the ship and made all the plays that needed to make late.
That's a great segue to my next question, Coach. What is your process for scouting and preparing for teams that you're going to play next, and how do you make sure all your players are equipped with the right game plan?
For sure. I mean, I like to think that we do our homework. And I think, being in the college setting for a little bit and understanding how much goes into a game plan at that level, I try to take some of that and kind of show our guys kind of what that detail means. And so you talk about what we do, I'll watch anywhere between 3 to 5 games of whoever we're playing. I'll clip up a whole bunch of things film wise that I feel like we need to see. Usually it's a couple of clips of their best players and the things that they really like to do, where they like to score the ball. Then, I talk about their pace, talk about what they like to do defensively, and then where we're going to get shots at based on what they do defensively. And then actually, we really start with how we're going to guard. I'm a big defense first type guy. So we start with how we're going to guard their actions, how we're going to try to do this and do that, what things we're going to try to take away. And then we get into how they guard. But, in practice, we'll have our JV team, like I'm sure a lot of other coaches do, go through the scout stuff. And if we don't guard it the right way, then I'll slow everything down and we'll walk through exactly the rotations that we need to have. And then, talk about skill development earlier. We make sure that our skill development stuff, our shooting stuff, our attacking the basket stuff is going to be areas that we're going to be able to exploit depending on how they guard certain actions. And so, we talk about all that type of stuff. We clip it, we watch it before the game. We talk about, hey, these are 1, 2, 3, 4 guys that we have to make sure we do a good job of. These are a couple things that they like to do, just quick reminders, because we've already walked through it, we've already ran through it. And then the last part is the two or three keys that we have to make sure that we do to go win a basketball game. And I like to think that our guys do a pretty good job of paying attention to that for the most part. And then it's just a matter of, seeing if we go out there and execute.
And then, real quick, one last question for me, and then we'll go into Mike has one more. Then we got your, a fun fact, and then rapid fire. But before I let you go with the next question, how much different is it being on this side now, being the guy making sure all your scouting reports are correct versus when you were on the other side playing down in Corpus?
Well, I'd like to think of myself as kind of the term student of the game is used a lot. And so I was in Corpus, especially after, I messed my knee up my senior year. I couldn't cover the ground I needed to cover because I was just limited. And so I would take all the coaches' scouting reports. And so we usually get in college, we would get one sheet of paper front and back talking about personnel, what they like to do, their stats, so on and so forth of every player that plays. The coaches had that same paper. They also had all the percentages that they do this, that, and the other. They had every one of their sets that they run on film, and a couple other things that we talked about a lot. And so I would take their scouting reports on the way to the game and make sure that I knew all that type of stuff. And I would say that really started my redshirt year where I kind of really bought into all of that. Just because again, I'm playing Division I basketball as a 6'2" unathletic guard. There's not a lot of us. And so I had to make sure that I was always in the right spot, always, one step ahead mentally wise and voice wise, so I can make sure that I was able to help my team on the floor. And even when I wasn't on the floor, I'm on the bench barking out what they're doing, just to stay mentally engaged and help my guys out. But, I think that was huge. And then, the difference now is I have to try to figure out how can I don't want to say dumb it down, but how can I simplify it as much as I can? Because I mean, not everyone's wired the way I was or the way I am. And so how can I make sure that we understand, hey, these are like the two or three things when in reality it's probably like 10, 11, 12. But these are the two or three things we have to make sure we do a really good job of. And again, that's, we deal with 15, 16, 17, 18-year olds. Like we're lucky if we can get them to lock into anything for more than 5 minutes at the time sometimes. So, that's kind of been the biggest challenge is I'm like, guys, like we talked about this, but I'm like, you know, we can only have so much information retention. And, that's been a big thing for us. Big thing for me to try to navigate, now being a coach.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
So I've got our final question that's on the list, and then I've got a bonus question for you before Rally Tally asks you for the fun fact. You got Madison, you got your herd of boys, freshmen through seniors. How do you balance your high school basketball coaching life with your other responsibilities, possibly teaching, administrative duties, your family life? What strategies do you use to maintain that healthy work-life balance?
Absolutely. Last year I was in PE, and so there's a lot. I don't want to say there's less responsibility, but I had to make sure that the gyms were taken care of, so on and so forth. This year I transitioned back into special ed. I'm now in the behavior unit, and so I'm constantly running around campus. Me and my partner Miss Wooten, who actually came with me from Lee, so we have a great relationship, which helps me out a whole bunch. And so just running around campus, putting out fires and so on and so forth. And so there's some days where I'm able to get into the classroom and sit down and watch some film. And then there's other days where I don't sit down at all because craziness happens at a public school, high school all the time. And so, it's been helpful to have people around me who support. Our admin's really good with me. Like I said, my partner in crime, Miss Wooden, she's really great. And then that helps me kind of balance out the work stuff. At home, my wife is amazing. She puts up with my crazy all the time. She allows me to come home and be mad when I'm mad and listen and then be like, all right, you're done. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. And then be happy. And she celebrates with me. And she's even learned basketball and she had no idea what a basketball was before we met. And now she's over here like, yeah, I mean, they should have done this and he should have done that and that this should happen. And I'm like, yeah, babe, you're right. And then, but she's been great about being supportive. And so, you talk about being able to have a balance. I think a lot of it comes down to who you surround yourself with and your support system. And I've been super fortunate to have a really good one.
All right. That's great stuff right there. And that's great stuff. Bonus question. So the past few weeks, Mr. Talley and myself, we've been getting questions in regards to high school coaches, working with or against club coaches. And I firsthand know that you work with. Anytime I picked up the phone and reached out, you've responded, and vice versa. You've hit me, hey, XYZ, YZX, right? What is it? What was it that has you on the cooperative side of working with club coaches?
I think it goes back to what you grew up with. I was very fortunate to play for a lot of really good AAU coaches. Like I said, I talked about Mo earlier. I played for Mo for a while with the Raiders, even though it was the Jayhawks back then. I played for the Texas Ambassadors growing up, and they were really influential and helpful for me. I understand to develop a basketball player, he needs a lot. It takes a village, it's not just, develop a young man that we try to do on campus, but it takes a village to try to help develop a basketball player. I worked out with some bunch of skilled trainers. I worked out with my AAU guys. I worked out with my high school guys. The more touches you can get, the more skills touches you can get, the better you're going to be. The more experiences you can get, the better you're going to be. I think one of the things that's kind of hurt us a little bit was not all my guys play high level AAU basketball. And so now you talk about being in game situations. They haven't played a whole lot of organized basketball games. And so that's hurt us a little bit. But I know, you surround yourself with the right people and you get your kids in front of the right people. And, like I said, you've been great. Lou with the Toros, Mo with the Raiders. I try to push my guys to certain organizations. I know, some of my younger guys are with BBA or whatever. There's a lot of quality programs around San Antonio, and it's just a matter of, and even, Eric had, my guys last year, there's a lot of quality programs around San Antonio doing a lot of good things. And at the end of the day, if all we want and all we truly want is to make sure that the kids get everything that they need to get, which is what we should be in this business for, then what's the harm in helping each other out, help our kids? And so I don't think anything is exclusive. I think it's all a matter of, hey man, like if we can help, I mean, you have Carlos and Cassidy on your rosters. If we can help Carlos and Cassidy do what they need to do in the summer to be a better basketball player, from November to February, cool. And then if I could do everything in November, February to help him become a better basketball player for the summer league, cool. And if all that winds up into them being able to reach their dreams and do what they want to do at the next level, perfect. Right. That's what we're trying to do at the end of the day. And so to me, I don't get why we can't cooperate and work together to get that done.
Hey, with that being said, phenomenal answer. I'm gonna let Rally Tally take over with the fun fact, and then I'm gonna do the rapid fire, Coach.
All right, Coach. Last but not least for me is tell the audience a fun fact about yourself. Just something that no one really doesn't know about you.
I'm a really good golfer. I think that's something, I guess. Let's see what else. I don't know. I feel like other people know me better than myself at times. I guess that would be the one. I got nothing. I got nothing.
Hey, that's a good one right there. That's a good one. That's a good one. And I saw you out there shooting at one time. So yeah, shout out to you on that golf course. Yeah, yeah. We saw you last March. Remember?
Oh, that's
You
right.
were
That's
out
right. He
there
was out
shooting.
there. I was like, wait,
Yeah,
wait,
give a
who's
little.
that guy?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you did a
yeah,
little
yeah.
something with us. So I appreciate that. So
For
yeah,
sure.
so
For
kudos,
sure.
kudos to you golfing. Go ahead, Mike.
If I
All
could
right,
quit
Coach.
my day job and golf every day, I would. That's my love right now. It's easy on my body. I can even with my broken knee, I can still go out there and swing a club. So, it's good stuff.
All right, Coach. Rapid fire time. Ready?
All right.
Who you got winning the Super Bowl?
Well, I have to say my Cowboys, but they're out of it now. So, let's see. I'm gonna go with the Ravens.
Okay. Okay. Pizza or calzone?
Pizza,
Cheeseburger or chili cheese dog?
cheeseburger.
Kobe or LeBron?
Mm. Best
See,
overall player between the two is LeBron. Who I'm rocking with is Kobe.
fair enough. I dig that answer. Whataburger or In-N-Out?
Whataburger. Texas guy for sure.
Two-part wing question. First, hot or barbecue?
Barbecue.
Drums or flats?
Drums.
Hey, Coach. First off, thanks to the Mrs. for allowing you to take a Sunday afternoon to come and kick it with the talking heads. And thank you for taking your time on a Sunday afternoon to join us and talk and talk basketball and let the world know just a little bit about the young guy that's up and coming on the coaching scene, man. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys having me. I know it's kind of been a little while to get out here, but I appreciate all you guys do for not just my kids, but all the kids in San Antonio, man. You know, good people doing good things, trying to promote our kids is always a great thing. So appreciate both of you guys for your time, and appreciate you guys for having me on.
Thanks, Coach. You're
Absolutely,
awesome,
guys.
and hey, man, again, kudos to you.
Thank you guys. Y'all take care, man.
All right, Coach.